Hi, friends. My name is Andrew, and welcome back to another episode of Teenage Talk with Andrew. This time, we have a really special episode because we are interviewing Toby Price. If you don't know who Toby Price is, he is a assistant principal at an elementary school. Is that correct?
Yep. Yes, sir. I was assistant principal at an elementary school here in Mississippi.
And he lost his job over reading a children's book, which I think that is kind of silly in my opinion. But I just have a few questions for you. And do you prefer being called Toby or Mr. Price?
You know what? I'm good with Toby. I'm good with Toby. I'm good. It's good to meet you. So I'm good with Toby.
Oh, you ready for the questions?
Yes, let's do it, my friend. Let's do it.
What was the first thing that went through your head when you were sent home? Like, were you surprised? Were you angry?
I got I think anger didn't come until much later, like in those stages of grief. I think at the first I was shocked when I was at least sent home for suspension and just surprised. Now when they called me back a couple days later and told me I was terminated, I think right before I walked into the room, I tried to think to myself, what's the worst thing that could happen? Well, they could fire you, but that won't happen. Well, there we are. And it did. So I think I was more surprised and shocked than anything else. And the first things that popped into my head is, boom, how am I going to take care of my family? I have 3 kids, 2 have autism. That was the first thing that popped in my brain is, what about my kids?
I get that. So my mom has like 3 kids and she's had multiple jobs before. So yeah. How much criticism did you get, if you did get any? Because I know that with these types of things, there can be a lot of criticism, a lot of backlash, and just parents get really upset over some of the silliest things nowadays.
Well, interestingly enough, and I think what makes this so, I guess what makes this stand out as the story is, when we went through the appeal process and they entered in all of the evidence that they had from the district, there were 0 parental complaints on the record. None of them complained. The PTO had my back and supported me. None of them complained. There's been a few trolls on the internet. They tell you once you get on the internet and there's some stories about you, don't read the comments. There's been a couple, 1 or 2 on the internet, kind of trolls that have said some negative things. The majority of the comments have been very positive, except for one evening, and I'll say this as nicely as I can. In the Walmart, I was shopping, and folks come up to you and they say, "Hey, are you that principal?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And majority are nice. I had somebody walk up to me and say, "You that principal from the news?" And I said, "Yes." And something in my stomach just said, "This is not going to go well." And he looked at me and said, "You are I'll say forking. You're a forking pedophile." But he didn't say forking, and walked straight off. And I was just like, that's okay. Ever since then, when someone walks up to us and says, "Are you that principal?" And I'm like, "Yes, maybe." They've all been so positive. I haven't had anything else like that, knock on wood. But that one, you can be having a great day and everything going your way, and then the one person walks up to you and tells you there's broccoli in your teeth, and that's all you're going to remember is that one negative thing. Yeah, that's what that guy sticks out a little bit. He sticks out a little bit, but I mean, at least it's, if I'm going to catch flack from folks, it's going to be something that's worth it, because kids do need silly books, and if I'm going to catch flack for something, it's going to be that. I'm okay with that.
Hopefully you guys are okay though, especially after that one. Like,
yeah, hopefully. That one. Interestingly enough, as far as support goes, I was in line at the Walmart, and the lady who checked me out, she listened and heard all that. And she said, "You know what? I've been checking you and your family out at this store for years. You're a good man. You did the right thing. I bought that book for my grandbaby. It was hilarious." She said, "And he don't get to tell you who you are, what you are." And you know what? She made me feel a lot better. She made me feel a lot better. So we haven't had anything like that, knock on wood, since then. So hopefully it stays that way.
Are you planning on working at another school, like if ever given the chance?
Right now, I have been working with my wife at the private school where she works. It's an all-inclusive school. They have kids with special needs, in the same classrooms with typical kids that go there. So I've been working there with her, and I've been writing a lot. I have one book out now, and I'm working on two more that'll hopefully be out, before I say before next year. One is going to be another picture book, which I can probably spit out pretty quick. The other is going to be like an educational leadership book about my kids and autism and special needs. So that one may take me a little bit longer, but that's what I'm going to focus on right now, and hopefully producing some type of show where I can share some awesome books with people and kids all over. Some of the books that some other teachers may say what or turn their nose up at, but I want to make sure I keep sharing awesome books with people. So that's what I'm going to focus on for the time being, and taking care of my kids. I don't know. I have two kids with autism. I say kids, they're going to be 20 and 18 this year, and they're almost done with school. So me being available to help with them right now is turned into a mixed kind of blessing, because it's just kind of where God put me where I needed to be. So right now we're going to keep writing, and hopefully we can turn that into a career and keep the lights on.
Yeah. Would you want an apology from the school administration that fired it, because it was obviously an unreasonable thing to fire you for?
At first I did want an apology, but I think for me now, I think the most important thing for me is to have that termination taken off my record. I have 20-ish years in teaching, and that's not the way I want it on paper to end. And I know that seems kind of trivial, because I met a lot of wonderful people and a lot of wonderful students throughout my 20 years, and there's a lot of folks that remember me one way. But for me, I guess it's important that on paper, that it doesn't end with a termination for misconduct or whatever they wanted to say. They change it quite often. I think I want that off my record more than anything else. It's almost like you've been accused of something you didn't do, and you don't want it to follow you. And I guess that's just me. But an apology, sure, but I want that taken off my record more than anything else. That's a great question.
What did your partner say when you told them about what happened?
Oh goodness, she was amazing. They left the room, and they had given me, hi, this is Addison, my oldest. She may come and say hi. Addison, you go say hello? No. This. They left the room and told me I could either sign a resignation or be terminated, and they left the room for me to decide. And luckily they did. And because I called my wife, and she said the first words out of her mouth were, "Don't you sign that resignation, because if you sign that resignation, you're admitting that they're right and what you did was wrong." And she said, "We've been married 20 years. I have no business telling you when you're wrong. I have no problem with that. But you weren't wrong here. So don't sign that resignation. You stand up, politely hold your head up high, and walk out of there and come home." And that's exactly what we did. And thank goodness, like I said, thank goodness she did, because it helped me realize that everything's going to be okay.
Did you ever think that reading a silly book like that would ever cost you your job?
No, I've been reading books to kids for years, man. Books are my favorite thing in the world. And honestly, I've read worse books. I read Sisters Grimm with some fifth graders, and there's the Scarlet Hand in those books, and they're terrifying. Okay, terrifying. No David pees his name in the snow and runs down the street naked. All books that I love, but in my opinion are much worse than I Need a New Butt. And I never thought it would happen. Funny thing was, my youngest, she said afterwards, about a week or two after, she said, Dad, she said, I always figured if they were going to get you, they'd get you for a book. What? She said, I didn't think it would be the butt book, but I knew they'd get you for a book one day. And I was like, well, she's right. They got me for a book. We didn't think it'd be the butt book, but here we are.
Yeah, I actually watched another interview that you were in on YouTube. I can't remember it was the Smiley morning show. And I was just listening to you to read it. I was just listening to you reading it, and I was just laughing and laughing and laughing.
It's a great book. Like, the whole premise is hilarious. The kid fell and he thought he broke his butt. I'm like, oh no, there's a crack back there. What do I do? He was gonna sell his dog to get money to buy a new butt. To me, that's hilarious. I think it's hilarious. They even asked me that when I went, is this the kind of thing you find funny? And I said, before I walked into this room, yes, I did. I used to. I still do. But here we are. Here we are.
Do you think that the administration overreacted, like with your termination and leaving it on your record?
I think so. I think it was an overreaction, and I not to get too technical with it, but let's say, for example, the superintendent, she has different background knowledge or previous experiences than I do. For example, she's not married, she doesn't have any kids, she's never taught in an elementary school, never worked in an elementary school. I have kids with autism, been in an elementary school my whole life. So my background knowledge, with kids, and most parents can tell you, pee, poop, butt, and farts is a big part of childhood. It just is. That. And, we have different background experiences. And it's okay to have different experiences, but you shouldn't fire someone over it. And then I think once the overreaction got, it's just like one of those things where somebody's pride got in the way and they couldn't take it back. I think also that certain people, and I'm trying to keep as much of the high road as I can here, certain people in that administration may have some homophobic type fears regarding things about the book. And I say that based on the things that they said during the appeal process. I'm not my own opinion, but just listening to them during the appeal process, I think there's an underlying fear there from certain people. Hi, darling. And I've never looked at that book that way. It doesn't.
Yes.
I don't know. If I had to see someone else's point of view, I guess I could. I don't have to agree with it, and I don't think you should fire somebody for having a different opinion, but that's me.
Yeah, so when I first came out, people overreacted a lot, and they would make fun of me, and it was just a bad experience overall. People still do make fun of me. They talk behind my back, but usually I don't hear about it till weeks later, and I'm just like, oh, that person said that? That's funny. Can't say it to my face now.
Well, and I my biggest thing with that is, and anytime anybody discriminates or hates on somebody for being different, it bothers me. Whether it's, and please God, let me say this right, LGBTQ, or in my case, people with disabilities. Because if they're going to discriminate against, folks like for that reason, eventually they're going to run out of people to blame. And what if they start blaming people with disabilities who are different? They cost us too much money, or they're a drain on. I mean, one day they could come for us. So anytime anybody who's different gets looked down on, discriminated against, picked on against, it bothers us more, because you know what? It could be us. It could be my kids. And I'm not okay with that. I'm not going to let that happen. I just can't. It's just wrong, in my opinion.
How long do you think this event will affect you in the long run?
Man, I tell you what, it's another great question, man. You're killing it. It's taken me a while, because this job, for a long time, is what I do. But when you're a principal and when you're a teacher, I tell folks, you're now, especially with the internet, you're an educator 24/7. You're never not an educator. And it's not just what I did, it's who I was, or who I am. It was a big part of who I am. So now I have to try to figure out, I guess, who I am again, but in a different way. I mean, it's not, I'm not any, different, but what I do is I got to figure it out. So it's impacting me in a big way. I'm okay with it now. I'm more accepting over what happened. Don't get me wrong. We're still filing. We're filing in Chancery Court, and we're not done fighting. But I'm accepting over what will happen, and I think I'm more in a place where I am ready to fight it, I guess is the best way to put it. But yeah, man, it's the lasting impact's huge. Because to me, 20-year career was taken away from me, not ended, and that's not okay. That's not okay. Good things came from it, but I mean, it's just not okay. It's just not okay. Go get dressed, darling. You can get dressed. I'll come back and help you in just a few minutes. I'll come back and help you.
I have just 2 more questions.
No, you're great, man. No, you're fine. You're fine.
Okay.
She just requires assistance with a lot of things, and she's okay. She's good.
If you could go back in time, would you not have read that book?
Another awesome question. I'll answer it 2 ways. Okay, 2 ways. If my principal or the superintendent would have came in and said, "Hey, don't read that book again, just in case a parent complains or somebody gets offended," I would have been like, you know what? I wouldn't agree, but I would have said, "Yes, ma'am." not a problem. I'll read something else. Now, that didn't happen. So if I was in the same place again and there are kids waiting for a reader and the reader didn't show up, and I, as a parent, wanted to read something engaging that I thought was funny, that I knew I could perform really well, because when you read a book to kids, lots of kids, you're performing, I would pick a book like this or this book again in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. I would. Because you know what? Again, kids deserve the silly books, man. A lot of kids find reading difficult. When I was little, I thought reading sucked because, you know, truth be told, I wasn't that good at it. It was hard. And I was never interested in it because there was never anybody that we read, books that we read, that I could, I guess, look to and decide, hey, they're just like me, until I met Peter Parker. Peter Parker was just like me. And I loved reading Spider-Man. I sucked up every Spider-Man book I could get my hands on. And you know, eventually I realized that books can be amazing and can be funny, and they can be so much more. But you got to hook kids with the books that they can see themselves in. Which why, you know, banning books and representation in books is so important, because if kids can't see themselves in that book, you're not going to hook them. If they don't see something funny in a book that makes them laugh and go, oh, I want to read more. Like, I broke my butt and there's my butt is noisy. My butt is silly. You know, you keep them coming back for more, then, you know, they'll see that reading is a pleasurable experience. And man, I don't know. It's important. Books are important in many, many ways.
My little brother loves books about dinosaurs, Cuphead, and Undertale. So he also loves Minecraft books and Pokemon books.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and those aren't traditional books that, you know, and this is not a knock on teachers. Certain female teachers would pick books that they would like. And they have, you know, those aren't the typical books that a teacher would bring into their classroom, unless they know their kids and give them access to those things. So, I mean, you got to find the books that the kids love and will engage them, and make sure they have them, you know, as many as it takes. You know, Greg Heffley from Diary of a Wimpy Kid, I'm older now and I can say is a little bit of a sociopath. But if it wasn't for Greg Heffley, so many kids never would have picked up a book. You know, same with Captain Underpants, Harry Potter. I mean, you know, those are the reasons a lot of people read. So the books are so important to me.
Do you think that this event will affect your family in any way, like where your partner works, your kids' futures?
It has not at her job per se, but as a family, it really has. You know, my youngest daughter is online, and I make sure she has everything filtered and blocked, and, you know, no one can get to her online without like us seeing it, you know, because I don't want any troll to find her and, you know, say something ugly to her online, because she's susceptible to that. My oldest two, the change in the routine that we had here in the house has really messed with them at first. And we've had a lot of behavior issues because of it. Not bad, but different behaviors that were just really difficult to deal with. And we're getting better with that now. Things are, you know, there's still some little things, but we're getting a lot better with that now. So yeah, it's impacting the family a lot. You know, we're having to pay for a lot of their medicine out of pocket because there's still some issues with insurance. I don't have any insurance right now. Neither does my wife. Addison, hang on one second. Go back in there. Thank you. Sorry. She's getting dressed. Go back in there. Okay. Anyway, but, you know, it's impacted us a lot. It really has.
Those are all of my questions.
Awesome.
Thank you for your time.
Really no problem. That. Thank you. No, thank you. And it was very nice to meet you, Daniel, right? Or Andrew. You go by Andrew. So I'm so sorry. Man, I got confused. All right, Andrew. It's very nice to meet you, Andrew. And I really enjoyed being here on the show. A cheap plug for my book, The Almost True Adventures of Tytus the Monkey, is available now on Amazon.com. Boom. It's about kindness, chaos, autism. You know, if somebody's out there, you know, pick it up. Anybody who has kids with autism have been through the grocery store and through some of the things that we've been through in that book, and wish they could do some of the things that Tytus the Monkey does. So cheap plug at the end there. Thank y'all. Sorry. But hey, I really enjoyed it, Andrew. Thank you so much for having me on, man.
Thank you. It was actually Dan's idea. So
awesome.
Thank you all for watching this episode of Teenage Talk with Andrew. And I also have an announcement. I will be taking a summer hiatus, and I will be back in late summer, early fall when school starts back up again, so I can spend some more time with my family over the summer. So I hope y'all understand and that you're not too mad about it. But that I guess that's it for this season of Teenage Talk with Andrew and this episode. May your sweetness shine and your colors glow.